Hello future doctors, welcome to Anatomy Ki Duniya. I am Himanshu Bijlani doing MBBS from Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College Ajmer. So today we are starting with a new topic, that is the scapula bone, which is present posterolaterally. So here is the scapula bone, which is a triangular in shape. So let's start with a new topic. Okay, so let's start with our new topic, that is the scapula. So the scapula is a thin bone placed on the posterolateral aspect of the thoracic cage. The scapula has two surfaces, three borders, three angles and three processes. Okay, so let's discuss with the first feature, that is the surfaces of the scapula. The scapula has basically two surfaces. First one is the costal surface, that is the front surface, and this one is the costal surface, and the second one is the dorsal surface. So this one is the dorsal surface. So let's go to the costal surface. The costal surface is also known as the scapular fossa, where the scapular muscle originates. It is the concave and is directed medially and forwards. So you can easily visualize this. See this one, it is directed medially, this one is lateral, this one is medial. So it is directed medially and forwards. Okay, so another thick ridge, it joins the lateral border. This part of the bone is almost rod-like. It acts as a lever for the action of the serratus anterior in overhead abduction of the arm. Now coming to the dorsal surface. So this one is the dorsal surface. It gives attachment to the supraspinatus and infraspinatus muscle, mainly in the supraspinous fossa and infraspinous fossa. So this one is the supraspinous fossa. This one is the supraspinous fossa. And on the dorsal surface, the spinous process of the scapula divides the dorsal surface into two parts, that is the supraspinatus fossa and infraspinatus fossa. So I have marked this that this supraspinatus fossa. Now let me clear this. Now what is the infraspinatus fossa? This one is the infraspinatus fossa. Okay, so the dorsal surface gives attachment to the spine of the scapula, which divides the surface into a smaller supraspinous fossa and the larger infraspinous fossa. The two fossa are connected by a spinoglenoidal notch situated lateral to the root of the spine. Okay, so let me show you what was the spinoglenoid notch. So the name indicates that it will be somewhat near the spinous process and the glenoid cavity. So this one is the spinoglenoid notch. Let me mark this. This one is the spinoglenoid notch. So now coming to the borders of the scapula. So the superior border, it is the shortest. Near the root of the coracoid process, it presents the suprascapular notch. See, in the last video of clavicle, I have told you that there is a coracoid process present on the scapula. The lateral border is thick. At the upper end, it presents the infraglenoidal tubercle. The medial border is thin. It extends from the superior angle to the inferior angle. Okay, so now coming to the borders, let's visualize this by seeing this 3D view. So the superior border is this. Let me mark the superior border. Okay, so this one is the superior border. This one is the lateral border, and this one is the medial border. So the superior border is shortest, so you can easily see this. The superior border is shortest near the root of the coracoid process. See, this one is the coracoid process. This one is the coracoid process, and near to the root there is a presence of the suprascapular notch. See, the name indicates that supra means superior, and it is present on the scapula, so it is suprascapular notch. Okay, now coming to the lateral border, which is thickest. See this one. It is the thickest of the all. At the upper end, it presents the infraglunar tubercle. See, this one is the lateral border, and here there is the presence of the infraglunar tubercle. See, this one is the infraglunar tubercle. This one is the lateral border, which is the thickest of all the borders, that are the superior border, medial border, and the inferior border. Now coming to the medial border, which is thin. This one is the medial border. It extends from the superior angle to the inferior angle. So this one is the superior angle. This one is the superior angle. This one is the inferior angle, and this one is the lateral angle or the glenoidal angle. So the superior angle is covered by the trapezius muscle. We will discuss in the later part of the video, that in the attachment part. The inferior angle is covered by the latissimus dorsi. This one is the inferior angle, which is covered by the latissimus dorsi. It moves forwards round the chest when the arm is abducted. The lateral or the glenoidal angle. This one is the lateral or the glenoidal angle. This one. Bears the glenoidal cavity or the fossa, which is directed forwards laterally and slightly upwards. A supraglenoidal tubercle is present above the glenoidal cavity. So there are two tubercles which are present superiorly and inferiorly to the glenoidal cavity. One is the supraglenoid tubercle, and another one is the infraglenoid tubercle. Let me mark both the tubercles. See, this one is the supraglenoid tubercle. And this one is the infraglenoid tubercle. Okay, so now coming to the processes of the scapula. First one is the spinous process. This one is the spinous process, which is present on the dorsal surface of the scapula. So this one is the spinous process. This one, which divides the dorsal surface of scapula into two parts, that is the supraspinatus fossa and infraspinatus fossa. So the spinous process is a triangular plate of bone with three borders and two surfaces. It divides the dorsal surface of scapula into the supraspinous and infraspinous fossa. Its posterior border is called the crest of spine. The crest has upper and lower lips. So let me mark both the lips of the spinous process. See, this one is the upper lip. and this one is the lower lip. The acromion process. Now coming to the second process. The acromion process has two borders. One is the medial and one is the lateral. Two surfaces, superior and the inferior, and a facet for the clavicle, for the acromioclavicular joint. See, this one is the acromion process. See, this one is the acromion process. It bears a facet here. You can clearly see this facet. See this facet. See, this is the acromioclavicular joint. See, this one is the acromioclavicular joint. Let me do both the bones again. So the acromion process has two surfaces. One is the superior, this one is the superior surface, and another is the inferior surface. It has two borders, the medial border and the lateral border. So this one is the medial border, this one is the medial border, and this one is the lateral border. This one is the lateral border. So the acromion process is continuous with the spinous process. So you can easily visualize this. See this? This one is the acromion process, which is continuous with the spinous process of the scapula. Now coming to the third process, that is the coracoid process. See, this one is the coracoid process, and it is directed forwards and slightly laterally. It is bent and finger-like. It is an atavistic type of epiphysis. So now coming to the side determination of the scapula. How to hold the scapula in the anatomical position is very important. So the lateral or the glenoidal angle is the large and bears the glenoid cavity. So the glenoid cavity should be placed laterally. The dorsal surface is convex and is divided by the triangular spine into the supraspinous and the infraspinous fossa. The costal surface is occupied by the concave subscapular fossa to fit the convex chest of the wall. The thickest lateral border runs from the glenoid cavity above to the inferior angle below. See, I've told you about the side determination in the last, because it was very necessary to describe first all the features of the scapula, so that you can easily visualize the side determination of the scapula. Okay, so let's start with the attachments of the scapula. So there are around 23 attachments. So today we will discuss around 10 attachments, so that it will be very easy for you to remember all the attachments. If I just gamble all the 23 attachments, then it will be very difficult for you to remember them. So today we will discuss with only 10 attachments. So the first one is the multipennate subscapular muscle arises from the medial 2/3 of the subscapular fossa. So now what is multipennate? Multipennate means that the muscle has more than one type of fibers. It consists of more than one type of fibers. So it is very necessary for a muscle to have more than one type of fibers, due to which the muscle becomes more stronger, and its movement, the movement of the muscle. So the movement occurred due to the muscle becomes very easy, and it is very important to note that the length of the muscle does not determine that the muscle is strongest or not. It consists of more than one type of fibers, so the muscle will be very stronger. Now coming to the second attachment, that is the supraspinatus. which arises from the medial two-third of the supraspinous fossa, including the upper surface of the spine. See, I have already told you about the subscapular fossa and the supraspinatus fossa. The subscapularis muscle originates from the subscapular fossa, and the supraspinatus muscle originates from the supraspinatus fossa. Now coming to the third attachment, that is the infraspinatus, which arises from the medial two-third of the infraspinous fossa, including the lower surface of the spine. Now coming to the fourth attachment, that is the deltoid muscle. See, I have already told you in a previous video that the deltoid muscle has three heads of origin. One is the clavicular head, and second one is the acromion head, and third one is the spinous head. So the deltoid arises from the lower border of the crest of the spine, from the lateral border of the acromion process. The acromial fibers are multipendant. Okay, so let me show you the attachment of the subscapularis muscle. See, this one is the subscapularis muscle, which originates from the medial two-third of the subscapular fossa. Now coming to the supraspinatus muscle. See, this one is the supraspinatus muscle, which is present in the supraspinatus fossa. It arises from the medial two-third of the supraspinous fossa, including the upper surface of spine. Now coming to the infraspinatus fossa. See this, let me just remove this muscle. See, this one is the infraspinatus fossa. This one is the infraspinatus muscle, which arises from the medial two-third of the infraspinous fossa, including the lower surface of the spine. See, I am not telling you the origin and exactly the insertion of these muscle, because we will study these muscle in detail in the next chapters. Now coming to the deltoid muscle. See, this one is the deltoid muscle, which has three heads of origin. One is the clavicular head. So this one is the clavicular head. Second one is the acromial head, and third one is the spinous head. Let me again mark the different heads of the the deltoid muscle. See, this one is the first head. This one is the second head, which arises from the lateral border of the acromion process, and third one is the this head, which arises from the lower lip of the spinous process of the scapula. And first one was the first head arises from the lateral two-third part of the clavicle. So now moving to the next attachments of the scapula. Okay, so now coming to the fifth attachment of the scapula, that is the trapezius muscle, which is inserted into the upper border of the crest of the spine and into the medial border of the acromion process. See, in the last videos of the clavicle, I have told you about the origin and the insertion of the muscle, that is the trapezius muscle. So if you have not watched the previous video, just see the previous video first and then see this video. Now coming to the sixth attachment, that is the serratus anterior, which is inserted along the medial border of the costal surface. It has various digitations. One digitation arises from the superior angle to the root of the spine. Second digitation arises to the medial border, and the other five digitation to the inferior angle. Let me show you the origin and the insertion of the trapezius muscle again. So this one is the trapezius muscle, which originates from the superior nuchal line, and it is inserted into the upper lip of the spinous process, the medial border of the acromion process. See this. See, this one is the upper border of the spinous process, and this one is the medial border of the acromion process. So now coming to the serratus anterior. See, this one is the serratus anterior muscle, which inserted along the medial border of the costal surface. See, this one is the costal surface of the scapula. This one is scapula. So this one is the costal surface of scapula, and it is inserted onto the medial border of the costal surface of scapula. See, it is inserting here. This one is the medial border. This, when I draw this scapula, so this one is the medial border of the scapula. Let me remove this muscle. Now you can easily understand that where the muscle was attached. So let me remove this muscle. So now let's move to the seventh attachment, that is the long head of biceps brachii. Okay, so this one is the long head of biceps brachii. This one is this one is the long head of biceps brachii. Let me show you. See, this one is the long head of biceps brachii, and this one is the short head of biceps brachii. So the long head arises from the supraglenoid tubercle. So earlier I have told you about the supraglenoid tubercle, which is present superior to the glenoid cavity. So I am not going in the detail of this muscle, because this muscle will be studied detail in afterwards in the next chapters. So now coming to the short head, which originates from the coracoid process of the scapula. See, this one is the coracoid process. Now you can easily visualize this. See, this one is the coracoid process. See, this one is the coracoid process, and this one is the short head of biceps brachii. So why this muscle is known as biceps brachii? It is known as because of it has two heads of origin. One is the long head and another one is the short head. So that's why it is known as biceps. Now coming to another muscle, that is the coracobrachialis. See, this one is the coracobrachialis. So the name indicates that it originates from the coracoid process of the scapula, coraco, and brachialis means it is inserted into the middle of the humerus. So when we will discuss the humerus bone, I will show you the insertion of the coracobrachialis muscle. Okay, so now let's discuss the origin of the long head of triceps brachii. So the long head of let me remove this muscle deltoid and these muscles also. Okay, so the long head of triceps brachii. See, this one is the long head of triceps brachii, which originates from the infraglenoid tubercle. So I have told you about the supraglenoid tubercle and infraglenoid tubercle. So from the supraglenoid tubercle, the long head of biceps brachii originates, and from the infraglenoid tubercle, the long head of triceps brachii originates. See, this one is the long head of triceps brachii. Which originates from the infraglenoid tubercle. So let me revise again all the attachments that were discussed today. So first one was the subscapularis muscle. This one is the subscapularis muscle. Second one was the supraspinatus muscle. This one was the supraspinatus muscle. Third one was the infraspinatus muscle. Fourth one was the deltoid muscle, which has three heads of origin, namely first one is the clavicular head, second one is the acromial head, and third one is the spinous head. Now coming to the biceps brachii, this one was the biceps brachii. The long head originates from the supraglenoid tubercle, and the short heads originates from the coracoid process of the scapula. Another muscle named the coracobrachialis, which originates from the coracoid process and insert onto the middle of the shaft of the humerus. Now coming to the long head of the triceps brachii, which originates from the infraglenoid tubercle. Okay, so that's all for today. Hope you visualize all the important landmarks, attachments of the scapula bone. For today's homework is you have to just revise all the important landmarks and the attachments of the scapula bone. For today's task is you have to tell me that what will be the insertion of the long head as well as the short head of biceps brachii. So if you like my video, then do like, share and subscribe to my channel, and please click on the bell icon to get the latest update. Thank you.